Okay, there we go. Sorry to get started late, you guys. Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta turn on my camera. And there we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Sorry to get started late. Welcome to the Matchmaker with LeTisha Underwood. I am your matchmaker, LeTisha Underwood. And sorry, I've been away. I've had to deal with some family issues, and so I had to take a break. But now I'm back. And today it is High Value Men Sunday panel session with the Matchmaker. But today I have a very special panelist, and we're going to have a very special discussion. Today we're going to break down and talk about what's feminine and masculine energy. There seems to be a lot of confusion on what the energies are. So I am simultaneously streaming this conversation. For those of you on Clubhouse, you can come over to YouTube by clicking the link up top, and you can join the live discussion. Chat will be off over here. Hand raising will be off, and the chat will be off because this room is open just to let you know that you can join me on. You can join us on Clubhouse. On YouTube. So just click the link up top and join us in the discussion. So welcome, British. Are you there?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, we don't get to see I was about to say, we don't get to see the skyline in the back, the beautiful lights in the city.
It's been a beautiful sunset this evening.
Okay, so welcome. All right, today we're going to, there has been drama over this. Did you realize? Did you know that?
Drama over what?
Over the room last night.
Last night?
Yeah, the room yesterday. I didn't even know.
Who's causing drama?
The young lady, Pretty, remember her?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, because it was just so insignificant. She was in another room and she said that I disrespected her by letting you disrespect the women. And I was like, wait, he asked if the women wanted marriage. And if they wanted it, could they say that they wanted marriage? And she refused, and the women refused. He was just trying to hold them to ask that question, and they didn't want to answer. So she felt that was disrespectful, and then she tried to catch me in another room, and it was
Well,
crazy.
if she ever wants to work it out, my favorite cigar is roughly $80. So as soon as she buys me my favorite cigar, we can have a conversation about it.
Man, I looked up your cigars. Yes, those are so expensive. I was like, man, and you smoke those regularly.
I love cigars.
Yeah, we can tell. All right, Christina, it's saying that you're not connected. For me to, I want to bring you up, but you have to connect your device.
Connect your camera, Christina.
Yes, Christina, go ahead and connect your cameras so British can flirt with you. All right, so British, I wanted to have this conversation because you and I had a conversation yesterday about real masculinity and real femininity, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, British, no, we really have to have that discussion because I don't think people understand where it actually comes from, why they're trying to achieve being feminine or masculine. Is it something that you can work for? Is it something you could turn into? So I really wanted to just let's let the people understand that femininity, the feminine energy and the masculine energy actually has deeper roots than what we believe.
Yeah, it's not something Kevin Samuels invented.
Okay, so what is feminine and masculine energy?
Well, I'm definitely not an expert in it. I just devoted myself to studying about it since I was 16 years old because I saw a video of someone asking Warren Buffett what was responsible for the altitude of your success. And that's quite an interesting framing. Altitude is like, what was responsible for the plane getting so high, which is quite intriguing. And without flinching, his response to that was picking the right partner. And he did not mean his business partner, he meant his life partner. And so that fascinated me as an investor and someone who came into the world to figure out investing. And so I started studying and I started sort of reading. It was always in my consciousness. And then I came across several books, some ancient, some modern. And the two books that I think describe it the best, the ancient one is a book called the Yoga Vashista, which outdates all modern religions. It's a philosophical book, not a religious textbook. And it's Indian philosophy. And that outdates the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu religious book. And then in modern times, the best depiction of it that I've seen is by a gentleman named David Data, who wrote a book called Intimate Communion. And a lot of people will know him for his book, The Way of the Superior Man. But the book that really, I think, sums it up the best is Intimate Communion. So that's where I started learning about this and trying to figure this out for my life. But in essence, masculinity and femininity are a yin and yang force to keep each other balanced. Masculinity is the deathly consciousness, and femininity is the expressive creation. So everything that's still is masculine, and everything that moves is feminine. I don't know if you're muted or what's going on here, but I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. So what is the origin? Like, where does the idea of, because when I, my studies, I've only gone back as far as Carl Jung, right?
Yep.
And you and those two gentlemen have gone back even further.
Yeah, so the origin is simply from the way that I understand it, it is a attempt at explaining how the functioning of the entire universe works. And that is through the stillness, which then invites the creation from it. And this is the same scenario in every religious textbook where, you know, in the Hindu religious texts, you have Shiva, which is the god of destruction, but he is the representation of eternal consciousness. And then from within him emerges his wife. And his wife is the feminine space. But really, what this is it's similar in the Bible with Adam and Eve as well. And the reason why this is extremely important is that a lot of people have this question of the chicken or the egg situation, which is which one comes first. And it is extremely clear in every philosophical text that consciousness comes first. The masculine space comes first. Masculine is not gender identified from the way that it's depicted. It is more about the energy space. So Shiva has his masculine direction and focus, and from within that, his wife and that feminine creation expands out from within that stillness. So you have to achieve that stillness, which is why one of the things that you've realized nowadays is you've seen women start turning to more meditation, right? Like we've all seen that. The thing people don't realize is that meditation is actually a very masculine practice. So what they're trying to do is balance the masculine inside of them so that they can allow the rest of it to unfold. But that's where it comes from. It comes from that original depiction. And none of this is new. This is not like you know, 2 years before Clubhouse, Kevin Samuels invented masculine and feminine ideals. This has been written down for thousands of years to explain the origins of the entire universe. There is a balance in the universe. There is a step order in the universe, and it starts with stillness. It starts with that masculine.
I agree. I agree that, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think people are very confused, and then they think that, oh, these conversations are just social media conversations, and I only hear about this on social media, but this is actually a real thing. Like, this is something that is really practiced, that a lot of people in their personal lives are striving to create that balance. But the reason why I wanted to have that so, because you said something interesting. So you said women are meditating. They're trying to create that balance. They're trying to tap in. Are they trying to tap into that masculine side? Do you think?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they're trying, they can't get it from the world. So the meditation is helping them generate it from within themselves.
Why can't they get it from the world?
Because the world has not been taught how to generate that masculine space. Masculine space is extremely powerful. Shiva is in the mythologies the most powerful quote unquote god of this realm, and it is very dangerous to allow and encourage men to tap into that. It is much more easier to allow women a glimpse of it within themselves.
And what happens when they tap into it?
Well, it gives them balance. It gives you, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you're meditating of that stillness, and that stillness penetrates your entire day, and that allows you to be calmer and more focused throughout the day and generate whatever results you need to generate.
Wait, so you're saying that masculine energy is calmer than feminine energy?
Yes, masculine energy is stillness. There is no before and there is no after. It is presence without judgment. It is just absolute stillness. It
Okay,
is the underlying of the ocean, not the top of the ocean, the underlying of the ocean.
so then when you see women who are acting in an irrational manner, right? And they're in they're triggered essentially, so they're very vocal. Um are they really truly being masculine then, if they're not being still? Because that seems like that's a lot of energy that you're outputting when women are upset.
I mean, I don't really understand the question because anything that moves is feminine. Anything.
Right. So what I'm saying is, you know how we were, when women are in conversations, right? They get to over talking, they get very passionate, they can get disrespectful through their language, right? You can
That's
tell
feminine.
if they're in a highly emotional state.
Yeah, that's feminine. They might be aggressive, but that's feminine. And this is the difference between the clubhouse version of what these two words mean versus the reality of what's been written down for thousands of years. If they are loud, and if someone is loud, including a man, and if someone is erratic in their movement, that is feminine space.
So is a woman who is not loud and passive, is she being masculine?
I, if a woman is still, right? If a woman is still and she is not allowing the creativity of the universe to flow through her, because that's what a woman is. A woman is, if we follow the mythological explanation of this, if a woman is the entire universe focused into one being, then she must allow those emotions to flow. So for a man to expect a woman to not be emotional is the silliest thing that anyone can expect. So if a woman is not allowing her true emotions to flow, yes, she's being masculine.
Okay, so women who basically they want to be able to react to things, they want to let that emotion flow, but they are suppressing it. So people have it completely backwards then.
Completely backwards, yeah.
So women like me would be masculine, and women like the combative, angry women we see would
No,
actually feminine
Well,
women.
no, that's not true. If you're
Okay.
talking about you don't suppress your emotions. You don't think in a direction. You feel your emotions. You just express them differently. So
Okay.
while a woman is being erratic, she's expressing it in an erratic way. If she's becoming aggressive, she's expressing it in an aggressive way. If she's like you and she's being calm and she's just sort of feeling those emotions, but expressing them in her own way, which might be calm, it might be excited, it might be laughter, it might be whatever. That is the hurricane of the feminine energy, and it's a man's job to stand within that and not react to any of it.
Okay, so then we're all being feminine basically in our in so okay, so I get what you're saying because all right, so we've been women have who are just expressing their emotions in a negative way have been wrongly labeled masculine.
Yes, that's
Okay.
when a man can't handle a woman's aggression because men have been taught that in order to be masculine, you must be aggressive. But masculinity is actually about stillness. It's about how, under what pressure can you stand still and face it?
Okay, so that I think that's a great point to know. I think a lot of ladies will respond to that very well to under because to them they're like, no, I'm still being feminine, right? I'm not trying to be like a man. I'm not a man. I'm just expressing my emotions, how I feel. So how can
That's
I be
fine.
a man if I'm expressing how I feel?
That's absolutely fine. A woman should be able to express herself however she wants to express herself. And it is the man's responsibility to decide whether he can deal with that and help her process those emotions and transform into emotions that will help the world rather than hurt the world.
So
In
how does masculine energy, the masculine male deal with a woman who's in a heightened state of her emotions?
not react to it because a woman, the feminine space needs its continuation. It has to continue. For a woman, more. It's about more, right? For a man, it's about less. We need less. But for a woman, it's about more and next and. Like for a woman's favorite word would be and. It's like, do you want to be happy or sad? No, I want to be happy and sad, just at the right time, right? So it's really about how a woman can learn. Not even a woman. I don't think any of this responsibility should be put on a woman. This is based on your chosen partner as a woman who should be able to manage you and help you learn over time how to process those emotions because you can rely on him as a rock to stand there and love you, whether you're being absolutely the most loving angel on earth or the demon head uh, that's presenting itself. He's got to stand there and be fully present and accept it and still love you through it.
Wouldn't that have been her father's responsibility to guide her through that?
Well, you can call me daddy if you want, but
Yeah.
it's that's
I can't with you, British.
I, I think it's every man's responsibility to help the women around him that he has chosen through this. To expect a woman to be able to have a rational conversation today on the 20th of August 2023 and still have that maintain that understanding while she is in a heightened state of emotion on the 20th of August 2024 is a silly thing for a man to do. Which is why when you talk a lot about having these conversations, etc., I always say the conversation is not worth it because it's her emotions. And men don't like it when women are emotional for some reason. But the biggest gift that a woman can give a man is her emotions, as long as it's channeled in the right way.
Okay, so see, like I got the comments coming in because I don't think women heard um, the masculine and feminine broken down this way, and I think it is refreshing to hear that they're not actually being called masculine, that they're not actually being masculine, because just feeling and having feelings and expressing yourself is just they're just doing what is natural to them, right? Now they're deciding to express it in a negative way, but that can be um, with the right man, they can that behavior can be dealt with in a right. She can be coached out of that.
She can be trained out of that. I
Okay,
don't know about coached out of that.
they're the same thing.
It's not really. Coaching means she has the responsibility. Training means I can force you to not do that.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So I wonder how many women want to be trained out of the. I think a lot of women do. That's why I think a lot of women say, "I need a man who can handle me," right? And then men get so frustrated. They're like, "Oh my gosh, why do I need to handle you?" Because she knows that she's always in a heightened state of her emotions, but she understands that the right man can train that, like he can train her in that and how to deal with him appropriately
It's
when she's in a heightened
from a
state.
man's from a man's perspective. I've always understood it to be management, right? Like a man is always responsible for every single thing that happens, no matter how intelligent she is, no matter how wise she is, no matter how much wisdom she so called has, etc., etc. A man's job is to be there in the time of those heightened emotions and allow her to process those emotions and take the wisdom from it because she can't because she's in it.
So what about men? So we've spoken on the feminine side. So what about the masculine side? Now you said it's stillness. Now we've seen a
Yes.
lot of these men, we've heard a lot of these men who get really, really like passionate, right? It seems like they're expressing a lot of emotional energy, right? What about them? Are women correct when they're saying that they're being feminine?
Yes.
Wow. So the women were correctly identifying the men because we understand what they're going through, but the men were not correctly identifying the women.
Yeah. Men think that aggression is a masculine trait, and it is right at the last second, right? Shiva is known as Shiva the Destroyer, so he clearly destroys things. And destruction is very, very important. But destruction out of hatred is very different to destruction out of love. So a man is supposed to destroy something because he loves it, not because he hates it.
Okay, so then let's ask you a question. So how do you really identify who's really like how do you identify a woman who is choosing to take on the masculine role?
She will be silent, she'll be nonchalant, she'll be directional, she'll want to control the direction of the conversation, she'll want to control the direction of the flow of things, she'll want to put everything into a frame, she'll want to take on that masculine sense of safety. Like if you feel safe around a woman, like physically safe around a woman, that's a hint that she's going to be in her masculine side.
And how do you recognize a man who is in his feminine side?
If he's moving,
Can you give us a little more besides if he's
if
moving?
he's moving, if there's movement, if there's emotion, if there's anything else that is not stillness, that man is operating from his feminine. It's like me, right? I have a consciousness inside me. That consciousness is sitting in the masculine. That consciousness right now is influencing my body, which is a feminine, aka physical manifestation of that consciousness, and now I have to learn to trust in this moment that masculine to speak through me, even though I am this entire world is a feminine expression.
Okay, so I'm
So
having a point.
if I'm doing this, right, I'm more feminine than if I'm just here,
Right, because me, I'm talking with my hands, and you're just sitting there.
right?
Like
Right.
I'm
And
moving.
that's how, right, and that's completely normal because when you're with a man, you don't feel safe with a man that's doing all this, right? You don't feel safe with that guy. You feel safe with a man that's sitting here looking at you, and no matter whether you are excited, whether you're crying, whether you're angry, whether you're happy, he's just still here,
Oh
and
my god,
occasionally reaches for his cigar.
you're so right. Because like I'm moving, right? I'm talking with my hands, and I just pictured. I'm like, would I feel safe with a guy who starts talking with his hands? Like, how would I feel about that? Because like when I talk, I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, when I say I point to myself. When I say you, I'll point to you. I'll do all this other stuff. And the entire time that you've been talking, you've been, the only thing you would do is take a sip of whatever you're drinking and then, take a smoke off your cigar, but you've been completely still. And I'm thinking, like, if I was with a guy who was talking like this, I would not feel safe, right? Because I'm thinking that, wow, this is a man who uses his hands, and I wonder if he uses his hands in a way that's going to harm me. That's just that, and I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's the picture that I see, because you're right. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, if I'm sitting with a guy and he's using his hands, that's what I feel. I feel like you using your hands, you're gonna use your hands to harm me. And I'm thinking, like, even with our eyes are expressive. We roll our eyes, right? We roll our eyes, we roll our neck. We're looking around. Yeah. Okay. Well, men are just really, really still. Okay. And then men are,
Yeah.
so the stillness brings.
I have to bridge. I am your reminder that there is a realm beyond the realm that you're in. I am the stillness, and that reminds you as a woman that no matter what, if you get caught up in the emotion that you're feeling, there is this stillness. And that's what they mean by when women say that I want my man to be my rock. Because a rock is immovable.
Mhm. So then, why, when I get these angry, aggressive women who just can't shut up, why do I feel like I'm dealing with a man though? Like, what? Like, they're so aggressive. Like, why do I'm like, because my first thought is, girl, you're being like a man.
Because respectfully, you have been conditioned to believe that a man is aggressive at all times and shouts loudly. Whereas if you remember back to the conversation about your father would not have done that.
That is correct. My father never yelled. My father never raised his voice. My father would get stern, but my father was just always this still calmness. And I would watch him with my mother. And my mother always had this heightened sense of emotions. And he would just be still in that. He would just, like, she's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And he's like, all right, Vaughn, you done? Right? Or he would, like, tease her a little bit, tease her out of her emotions. But my father was just always calm, always just non reactive.
Imagine this. Imagine you've got two glasses of water in front of you, and imagine one glass is empty and the other glass is full, right?
Hmm.
At least now the full glass can empty itself into the empty glass. That's a proper feminine masculine relationship. But what's happening right now is that you got full glasses on both sides, and as the woman tries to empty into the man's glass, it overflows, and that turns into the anger and the aggression and the erratic behavior. Whereas a man's responsibility is to realize and empty himself of emotion and empty himself of that energy to allow him to take yours and remind you that you are still a baby girl.
I like when you say that. I used to not, right? I used to feel uncomfortable, like, what? I'm not a baby girl. But you're like, no, you're all our baby girls. And now I understand it. And I'm like, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to know that my man is going to cherish me. That's how he sees me, in order to cherish me and make me feel safe and protected.
Yeah. Because a baby girl it's my baby girl, right? It's not just a baby girl. It's my baby girl. And in this moment, I choose to allow you to lean on me to do that. I don't have to do that. But in this moment, I am allowing you to do that. And really, a man's got to develop the nature where he can do that for the entire world because the entire world is feminine. The entire world wants to lean on a man that can maintain his stillness. And then the question is, he needs to pick a woman that can help him and protect him from all the other energies in the world. That's the best gift that a woman can give a man, is to fill him up so much that he's not affected by all of these other energies that are going on in the world that rely on him to be still because she satisfies him.
So is these energies something that are innate in us, or is it something that we have to learn?
This has been written for 5,000 years. This is this is not something that you have to attend the seminar for. This has been written and educated for thousands of years, way before any man-made or any modern religion, rather. Um, and this is the core nature of the universe. This is we're not discussing things here that are, brand new discoveries of psychology.
So the modern day discussion of feminine and masculine, especially when it comes to women working, right? Women working is seen as she's now being masculine, just her working and going to work, and there's that just wanting to uh, participate in a man's world makes her a masculine woman.
We have to learn to separate what is the true definition of masculine and the true definition of feminine, which has been around for thousands of years, with the modern definitions, where what we have done is basically taken some of these traits and assigned it to men and women. Whereas the truth is, the reason why a woman becomes masculine when she goes to quote unquote work is because the work systems that we have set up around us to create maximum efficiency require direction, they require stillness, and they require never ending presence. Those are the core underlying attachments to what true masculine energy is. And when anyone spends enough time in that environment, they're going to adopt that energy. And unfortunately, it's been tested and proven that a feminine way of working just does not generate the same capitalist results than a masculine way of working.
Okay, yeah, I see. So if a woman truly wants to just be in her feminine, Um, I see you, Vern. So when a woman truly wants to be in her feminine, right, then the best thing is just for her not to work.
I can't really say that because at this point we live in an economic system that requires two incomes in most places in the Western world, and for most people, depending no matter what, whether it's the Western world or not. So I can't say that. I think a woman has to learn how to navigate these two energies.
Right. So she would need to learn how to balance it in her work life when she's outside of the world.
Either she's gonna learn how to do it, or what I prefer is it's her man's responsibility to help her understand that this is the best way to work.
Okay,
And a
now
lot of men don't like that responsibility.
I think so, and I think we have some men in the chat who would like to give pushback on that. So when I was having the room the other day, I said that in romantic relationships, you can't have both, not at the same time, right? Not trying to come as a
What do you
balance,
mean by what do you
meaning
mean by
you're a person who is trying to flip flop between both energies at the same moment, right? You're wanting to be still, but then you also want to be moving at the same exact time. You want to be respected and you want to be cherished at the same time, in the same moment.
I think that this is probably the number one biggest issue going on right now, where everyone is seeking balance. I have no interest in balance because balance doesn't allow you to lean on me or for me to express through you. Balance creates an environment where we just both turn each other off. There is no polarity. Polarity is what David Data talks about, and it's extremely important.
So then basically, you don't have to come as a balanced person. You just need to find the energy that is the opposite of the energy that you're moving in, that you are in.
Yes, that does not mean that you can come as a destructive person, but trying to control your feminine energy to the point where you basically are a level-headed zero, you know, that's not going to create any happiness. You're basically going to find someone else who's also balanced, and then you're going to sit there and have a conversation that's going to be extremely boring.
Oh my gosh. And I wonder how many women, because I myself, right? I in my relationship, I would get in heightened states, right? Like I would get if I was getting frustrated, if I was getting annoyed, I would kind of feel guilty because I'm like, wait, I'm not supposed to be feeling annoyed. I'm not supposed to be feeling frustrated. Am I truly being my feminine self if I'm expressing annoyance? If because now it's like I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but is he going to see it as disrespectful? So I think a lot of women,
The
um,
question is, do you trust your man to deal with your hurricane of emotions?
mm,
And most women don't.
do you think that's why they suppress their emotions or they try to suppress their emotions?
Of course. The question is, do you trust your man to help you with your hurricane of emotions? I would not want a woman that if she felt sad, she wouldn't tell me. Like my ex girlfriend used to do that, where if she felt sad, she'll try and deal with it herself and try and keep it away from me. And I said, it took you an entire day to do that. If you had just told me you were feeling upset, 5 minutes later, you'd have been feeling better. So, what's a better investment?
So what about if she's angry at you? She can tell you that?
I'm the one that loves her. Who else is she going to tell? I'm the one. If you're upset at me and you still love me and you're upset at me, that's the best moment for me to test how present I can be with you. Because
Mm,
I have to trust the fact that regardless of all of this emotion that she's throwing towards me, she still loves me. And do I still love her in this moment? And can I see past the anger that she is throwing towards me? Can I trust that this will pass? Can I absorb this and allow her to process this? Because she's probably angry at me about something that happened 5 days ago that I don't even remember. You know what I mean?
yes.
That's what she's probably upset about.
Yeah, they say when she's fussing about the toothpaste, it's not really the toothpaste. If she's fussing about the toilet seat, it's not really the toilet seat. It's something going on and she just doesn't know how to tell you. So men, I've heard men say, don't come to me with the I'm feeling something or I feel some type of way, but she can't really express exactly what she's feeling. But it's a feeling of weirdness and she doesn't know how to quite put a name to it. What do you say when that's going on, when that's happening with a woman?
This might sound a little bit crazy to a lot of people that are listening, but from everything I've learned, if I spend my time analyzing the words that come out of a woman's mouth, I'm not going to get anything done. So I don't want to know. Say all the words you want to me. I'm not listening. I mean, I'm there and I'm fully present and I'm absorbing your emotion. I'm not listening to your emotion. I'm not listening to your words. And guess what? As I listen to your emotion, you will turn around and go, oh, he heard me. Because I did actually hear you. I heard what you were trying to say. I heard the emotion. I didn't hear the words.
That's interesting because I think in that moment, right, men then try to get into the realm of trying to control the energy, right? Trying to
No,
control.
man, that's not really what they're doing. Men are trying to do what men have always done, which is we're fixers. We see a problem, with the destination is the end of that problem, and we want to get there as fast as possible. And what we don't realize is that for a woman, that journey is of 1,000 emotions between here and there. So we're just trying to do what we know best, which is trying to fix that issue. When we don't realize that 5 minutes of just sitting here completely still, looking into your eyes while you're going crazy, is going to process all of that, and then we can get to actually fixing the problem.
Well, what about a man who is, he's starting to match her energy because now he's frustrated because I think there's like a miscommunication, right? But she's saying that she's frustrated, she's upset, she's in a heightened state of emotion, and now he's matching her energy.
Good
Now
luck.
he's in a heightened state of emotion, right? And because I think with women, when women are saying like, do you think that at that point the man should then
That is now a lesbian relationship based on the energies of the universe.
but I think that women are saying that they want men to express themselves more.
No, they don't. They want men to express themselves because they've never met a man that could actually empty their emotions into and move on.
So he can say,
They've met men. They've met men who, when they get angry, the man gets angry and they don't believe it because women's emotions work on a roller coaster. So while the roller coaster is going up and the man starts going up, the woman's like, wait, but if you're going up, that must mean that it's really what you're truly feeling is what's going down. So then she goes from anger into sadness, and now he goes from follows her into anger into sadness. And when he does that, she's now thinking, well, if you're following me into sadness, that means the truth must be on the way up, not on the way down, because we're going down right now on a roller coaster. So to say that you want a man to be expressive is a false ideal. A man's job is to fix things and be present while he's doing that.
well, what do you say to the woman who doesn't want it to be fixed? She just wants her. She just want to be heard. She just want you to take in all the emotions and feelings, and show a little empathy. That's it. We don't want to
Part of it.
be
That's
fixed.
part of it.
Empathy.
That's part of it, of course. As soon as a woman is extremely experiencing a heightened state of emotions, a man has to find his stillness. Simple as that.
Are masculine men capable of empathy?
It's not about whether we're capable of empathy or not. It's more about whether we can. What's more empathetic than being able to take your woman's emotions, absorb them all, and still love her?
I can see that. I think there's something to your previous point where women are wanting empathy because they're not being they're not dealing with men who know how to just be still in her heightened state, and that stillness will make her feel safe and cause her to feel heard by her man. Whereas when he's now in the same heightened state as she is, and they're both in an arguing match and screaming match, she's not feeling safe. She's not feeling heard. But when he's just being still and calm, even if he's not listening, she still has that feeling of he
He's
hears.
present.
Yeah, he's present and he's listening, even though you're not
I,
hearing.
I, I'm gonna give I'm gonna give you a great example, right? I'm going to do something right now. I want you to recognize whether you feel how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe do you feel in this conversation with my presence, what I'm offering you.
A 10.
Okay, I'm about to do something, and it will last about 30 seconds as we continue. And I want you to recognize how you feel on your level of safety. Okay.
Okay.
So, what do we? Where do we go from here? So, if a woman is arguing with a man, what what should he actually have to do to make it calm and make her feel good about herself? What should he have to actually do? Recognize right now. I can see it in your eyes, right?
Yeah, I'm like,
It just went from a 10 to a 3, if that.
it did. 'Cause I'm like, you don't look trustworthy doing all of that.
That's
You
it. We just demonstrated it right there, and I can do it for a woman that I'm in a relationship with or that I'm not in a relationship with because it's truly about my relationship with the feminine in the big grand scheme of things. And I can take it straight back. All I need to do is take a few seconds just to empty myself, and you'll feel safe again in 30 seconds.
please do. Because that was, I was like, whoa, what? Why is he moving so much? And I know you said I'm about to do something. I didn't know what it was, but then you started moving. I'm like, what is he doing? And then when you started talking and your eyes were all over the place, I'm like, yeah, that's not, is he being honest with me right now? Like when he's saying that, it was just like, okay, so point proven. So we talked a lot about what the masculine, how the masculine is. What about the feminine?
So
What is
just
the
take this
feminine?
second to Just take this second to realize right now how it's climbing already, right?
Yes,
It's interesting, isn't it?
it is. And I'm sure that everyone watching can feel the same thing. Put a one in the chat. Thank you to all the viewers. Put a one in the chat if you got the same, if you felt safe, and then you felt the switch of being safe. You could see the difference between the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Not saying that you were being, feminine, but so what
No,
about?
I was being feminine. That's exactly what I was doing. Anything that involves movement is feminine.
Okay, so what about the feminine role? How does that play a part to the masculine?
Feminine's role is creation. It's to make the journey between here and all of the destruction that I need to do of time and space to get to wherever we need to get to, make that feel good and make that beautiful and make that an adventure. That's what the feminine's role is for a man. That's why a mentor of mine once told me that you must walk as a king to, and your queen will come to you, right? That's a famous quote that I'm sure people have heard. And that's extremely important. You've got to get there first. You've got to get to the stillness first. And then from within the stillness, the feminine will naturally enliven it or enliven itself around you. The stillness is very, very important. Get there, and then the feminine's role is to just make everything beautiful, exciting, a journey for you to test how still you can be.
That's a great point because when I think about the dating realm, right, and I think about how nonchalant women are when it comes to dating, how still they are, they don't want to be they don't want to take on the moving role of the feminine, being the fun, the exciting, the creative, right? Um, they want to take on the still role, meaning the man has to be the fun one, right? He has to incite the funness and excitement and the creativity in her.
The man is inciting it, but he's inciting it through his stillness. The man is inciting it by allowing her the space to do that.
But they
And
don't.
again, she just might not be that type of person, in which case she was not right for him.
No, what I'm saying is they don't even want to do it. Like they just
The
don't.
women don't want to do it.
No, they don't want to do it. They just feel like I'm just gonna
I
show
mean,
up, blah. Like
the number one quality that turns me off when I'm on a date is nonchalantness. You can literally get away with a lot with me, as you know, in the grand scheme of things. But being nonchalant, and that turns me off faster than a lot of things.
so a woman being talkative, and because I've heard some guys say, "Why she talk too much? They talk too much, right?" And so because my father doesn't talk that much, the men in my family do not talk that much. So when I got on social media and seeing how much the men actually like to talk, they're talking a lot, I was kind of taken aback, right? Because I'm like, women usually are the chatty patties, but the men are saying, women are being the chatty patties, and we talk too much. I know I stumped you. Are you like, why are you asking me these dumb questions, LeTisha? Or
No, 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 no. You didn't stump me. I'm waiting for an answer to show up. Um, a woman, a woman talking too much, right? And a man complaining about her talking too much is probably a sign that he's just not that interested in this particular woman. Now, if the other side is that he wants to actually talk and be expressive, and that's very important from him, then he's probably living in his feminine.
mm, mm. So I'm getting a lot of comments. A lot of men are saying they don't like women who are nonchalant either.
Yep.
Okay, so I did get a comment. I want to see what your thoughts are on this. I don't like when a woman is nonchalant. If she wants her husband, she should come after me and let me know. Should
It
women
is always, if we just go back to the mythologies, right? Because I'm not a dating expert. All I'm looking at is the philosophies that have been written and that this world has worked on for thousands of years. If we just go back to the philosophies, it's very, very simple. A man must find himself. He must find himself and his stillness. And then from within that stillness, he will find a woman that lights up that world. And until he finds himself, he should not do anything. And on Clubhouse, I like to say, you don't like, you shouldn't negotiate with terrorists, right? And
Mhm.
that's a joking way to say exactly what I'm saying right now. I don't think that a man should be doing the pursuing is the wrong word, but I can't think of a better word right now. A man's job is to choose and court based on the philosophies. It's to choose and court. It's not to go out there and try and like hunt things that are out of his realm. Yeah, you might need to do that to develop sort of the skills, which I think are important. But in the grand scheme of things, if you develop yourself and you become someone that is important and you accomplish things and you find the stillness within yourself from within which you can actually transport the value that God has sent you on this earth to create, the women that align with that will automatically be magnetically drawn to you.
Okay, so but once, you know, she's drawn to him, then what's the like how does that function? Because now, right, because the understanding of the masculine is the active, right? He pursues, the feminine submits and
You're
decides.
mistaking. Look at everything we've been talking about. Masculine is stillness. It's stillness. Masculine is the sway. Masculine is, if you had to describe the masculine energy based on the philosophies that have been written about it, the masculine space is the space between life and death. It's stillness. His job is to hold that stillness so that she can enjoy herself around it.
Okay, so I just want to do a quick break. For those of you who are listening to this on Clubhouse, I would suggest you click the link up top above my head to come over to YouTube Live, to the YouTube stream, so you can join in the conversation because I'm going to shut this room down in like a few minutes because my phone is on 5% battery and I forgot to charge it. So this room will be shutting down once my phone dies. So if you want to continue listening to the conversation, I would suggest that you click the link up top to come join the room, right? British, do you want to take questions from the audience, invite them up, or do you want to just keep going as we are?
Totally up to you. How
Okay.
do you want your live stream to unfold in the best possible way? I'm here to help you do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm going to put the link in the chat if you would like to come up to ask British some questions about the masculine and the feminine. This is your chance, right? I think for women and men that it's a good conversation and you can't, I mean, there's not much that you can
LeTisha, I'm just going to be back in 2 minutes. I'm just going to go to the bathroom.
okay. Okay, so I don't think you can argue much. I still think, as a dating coach, that men, as a dating strategist, that men, because they're active, because they are, I think masculine men still feel comfortable pursuing. I think women, the feminine woman, you utilize it. The feminine woman will move first to show that she's interested, right? To start that engagement, meaning a choosing signal, a hello. I know in this digital age, you could potentially hop in the inbox and start a question. if the masculine man is does approach you, let him know that you're interested, right? Let him know that you're interested. When your feelings are activated for that man, let him know it. And that's the conversation. I do think that men still pursue, right? Do the courting, not pursuing, the courting. They are the ones to lead the courting that will then open up the space for the feminine to start to bond with him, right? Because masculine gives, feminine receives, and if he gives the signal of commitment, then she'll be able to give back in a way of initiating the bond. But this is a great conversation. If you want to join in, ask questions, click the link in the chat on YouTube. For those of you who are on Clubhouse, go ahead and click the link above my head and hop over, because again, this Clubhouse room will shut down, and we're discussing women aren't really being masculine, right? So British broke it down earlier. If you missed it, I would suggest you go back and listen to this live stream at some other time, because as British broke it down, that the masculine is still and the feminine is moving. And he also stated that when a woman is in her heightened state of emotions and she's in a conversation and she's being, even if she's being aggressive, she's being combative, she's still in a feeling state. And those women are not masculine. They're just expressing their emotions in a different way. So women, feminine women, have a different way of expressing their emotions. Now we can get into the conversation as to why that is, because those women are saying, I am being feminine, right? I am being feminine. I'm not being masculine, right? I'm feeling, I'm emoting, I'm feeling, and I'm expressing my emotions. And we look at it as, well, you're being masculine, because society has conditioned us to see that masculinity is aggressive. Masculinity is aggressive. Men are aggressive. But when women are in their feelings, it just comes off as, for me as a feminine woman, it comes across as aggressive, right? Like because again, I know that men are aggressive, so to me it comes across as, wow, you're being aggressive with me. But she's still in her feminine. She's just engaging. She's just operating in her feelings in a different manner. I know that's hard to hear. I know it's hard to take. So we've been erroneously calling these women masculine, and that's why I labeled the room "Women Aren't Really Being Masculine." And to British's point, he said that it is a man's responsibility to manage that woman's emotions. Right, ladies? You need a man who's going, stop saying, I need a man who can handle me. Start saying to yourself, you just want a masculine man who is going to be able to manage your emotional state, because you are a woman. You want to feel free. You want to feel free to express your emotions. You don't want to suppress them, because that's not good for us. That causes stress and depression. So you want a man who's going to manage your emotions so that you don't feel like he's controlling you. And I think that's where a lot of women may feel controlled, when a man doesn't manage the emotions. He just tries to meet that energy and tries to get her to shut her emotions down. Welcome, Justin. Welcome to the panel.
Hey, LeTisha, what's up, British? I was really happy that I came across this. I was on CH and I was like, what is going on here? I didn't realize that you had a YouTube channel and you were streaming through CH. So yeah, I was listening to the tail end of what British was saying, and I just came in to support what he was getting at, and I think he's absolutely correct. One of the concepts that I teach my guys is having a mountain mind. That's what I call it, and it's essentially what he was talking about, is that stillness. And a mountain is unaffected by tornadoes, snowstorms, thunderstorms, anything that is thrown at it. It just remains what it is and is fully grounded. Basically, I mean, it doesn't have a square. It is the square, right? And and I mentioned to dudes that, if you are thrown off of your square simply by a woman expressing herself, whether it's because of something you did or something that is unrelated to you, that shows that you're not grounded in yourself. You don't have that stillness, that you can be moved. And trust me, she sees even the smallest things. If you move just like an inch off of your square, she notices that. If you move a foot off of your square, she definitely notices that. And these things are taken into note. Now, If she really likes you, like, sure, she might stick around. But if you move too much, the respect goes down tremendously, right? And then once the tipping point of respect is gone, then that's it. Like, either she'll stick around and use you, or you'll just be cast aside.
That is so interesting. So, what is the expectation of the feminine? What does the feminine look like?
What does it look like?
For men? What does it look like for men?
Oh, geez. That is a huge question because it's so multifaceted. I mean, you could write an entire book on it, but I mean, it's there's a lot of darkness, and the darkness can be quite dark, but the darkness can also be mysterious. It can also be beautiful. It can be intriguing, right? But then there's also the light where it's very bright. It's very joyous. It's very creative. There's really, I can't even really put it into words, the vastness of a woman's femininity, because like once you get inside the gate, I talk to my guys, it's like you're like a gardener and she has this gate to a garden, and when you get in there and you start kind of doing your thing, she's watching you, right? With very keen eye. And then as you are consistent in doing what you're doing, and your program is solid, then she watches less and less and just lets you continue as you are. And if you keep going, you'll find that that garden goes on forever and ever. Like it's hard to describe to guys who have never really experienced that. It's just harsh that when we have like channels like, say, Fresh and Fit, who they talk about, say, quote unquote, female nature, they're only talking about a very small corner of that garden that they've only experienced. There's this whole other world that they haven't experienced. And I know they haven't experienced it because they never talk about it. Never. They just talk about that one little corner. They're like, oh man, woman's going to take advantage of you. Yeah, sure. They do sometimes if you let it happen. If you're a fool, if you're a mark, yeah, it's going to happen, but that's a tiny, tiny little speck of that garden. There's a whole huge area. And, if you know what you're doing, you can prune it and preen it and, carve up little dinosaurs out of the hedges and all sorts of stuff. Like Edward Scissorhands.
I think this is a great discussion. So, guys, if you're on Clubhouse, my phone is down to 3%.
So plug it in.
So it
Nice
was.
to see you, Justin.
What's up?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, my charger is not a movable charger, so I would have to put it in another room. Oh, we have Lawrence joining the stage. Welcome up, Lawrence. Welcome. I think this is a great discussion because wow, like we have the discussions on the feminine and masculine, I think have been superficial. I don't want to say they've been wrong, but I think they've been superficial and they have not reached a level that it needs to reach. And it's just been causing a lot of confusion. And as British and I were talking yesterday, I was like, wow, like this goes pretty deep. I need to do some more research. Like I need to go deeper on the feminine and the masculine because it's not about what you need to do. It's about who you're being, right? Who you need to be. Yeah. And in order to help women to understand that more, because I can't help men understand about masculinity, but I can help women understand about
Interestingly enough, when you read the philosophies, it is actually a woman's sole purpose on earth to help a man refine his masculine should he choose to do so. Because when she acts in her feminine, that is an opportunity for him to refine the masculine space that he is operating from.
So we have a comment that I found interesting. Darby says, most women's feminine garden is pretty barren.
Based on his experience.
Okay.
Now, that's a pretty big statement to say most, because that means you've dated a shit ton of women. And I'm sorry, you don't like swear words. Okay, no. My apologies. You've dated boatloads of women, and I think that's probably not the case. There's probably a small pool, and he's extrapolated that from watching a bunch of YouTube videos, smashed it together, and created a belief.
So let's say you do come across a barren feminine garden. What is the masculine supposed to do with that?
I don't think it exists.
You don't think? What does that even look like? I don't even understand what he means by that.
I
That
don't
would
either. I don't
basically,
understand. I don't understand either.
British, it's on you.
yeah, that would basically mean that every woman is completely and utterly broken based on thousands of years of philosophy that has been written. I don't know whether that's true or not. I can agree that in her current state, she might not know and recognize what her role is. But like I said from the beginning, and it's written in every religious text, it is a man's role to find himself so that she can feel safe around it. It's not a woman. It's not a man's job to find a woman that he can enjoy, if that makes sense. She's enjoying him. He comes
Correct.
first. He is the consciousness.
Mm-hmm. And if you, what's the funny thing is that when you, I guess, say enter that garden, you can take her to regions of it that she didn't even know was there. Where through you can bring her to a deeper sense of her own self. And that is another thing that I think a lot of guys will never experience, right? Because they're stuck on just looking at the surface. They're so easily distracted by what they see, and including like, you know, her appearance, but also behaviors, and not being able to tap into her core through understanding his core, right? Which has nothing to do with his job or his looks or his status or any of that nonsense that is preached about on social media.
So broke men can be masculine, right? So I think that you made a great point, Justin, because a lot of women think that he has to be rich in order to get there. You know, my channel is about high value men, but no, you can find you a masculine man at every social economic level.
Absolutely.
Yes, there's been I don't know what's not a swear word here, so I'll say it and correct me if I'm wrong. There's been a retardation, which I believe is in the dictionary, so I don't
Yeah,
think
a
that can be
turning back.
classed as a swear word. A retardation of the definitions of what is feminine and masculine to fit a particular narrative of qualities and features people are looking for. And that is, while that may have some merit, it is completely different to the ancient philosophies and mythologies that have been written about masculine and feminine when it comes to the true essence of the universe. We're talking about two extremely different things.
Mm-hmm. And it's unchanging. It really is.
Okay.
What do you have, 1% now?
Yes, I'm at 2%. I'm
All
at
right.
2%. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on Clubhouse, you have just a limited amount of time to get over onto YouTube and to join the stream. For those of you who are on YouTube and you would like to ask the men on the panel a question, if you have any questions about masculine or feminine energy, now is your time. Hit the link that's pinned at the very top of the comment section, and you will be able to join the panel.
I will add something about masculine and the ability to lead. I know you guys were touching on it a little bit about emotional guys and being compassionate and things along those lines. When you as a man are too emotional, right? Your emotions bubble up, or they come to the surface of your actions and so on. It counteracts your ability to lead. And we, like, guys, we've all been there in certain situations where we've been really frustrated or angry or sad or something like that, and it inhibits our ability to make clear decision making that has, you know, the right path, right? And so it's especially important in relationships, because if a guy is moved within his emotions, he cannot see clearly. He can't see the lay of the land, and he can't direct himself, and therefore he cannot direct her. And I make an analogy of like a music conductor, right, or symphony conductor. The conductor, he can hear the music clearly, right? He knows it through and through, back to front, right? But he's never listening to it. He's never immersed in it, because if he becomes immersed in the music, he'll lose his place. And then all those people, all the people in the symphony that are counting on him for his direction and leadership, they'll get messed up, right? So he has to kind of remain, what I tell my guys, 12 inches back and 12 inches up, where he's slightly detached from the whole situation, but not completely removed, right? He can hear it, but he's not listening to it. He's not immersed in the experience of the music, and therefore he can lead properly.
You can't lead while you're also following.
Yeah. Well, that's what immersion does. Like when you immerse
Yes.
yourself into an experience, you're now following that experience. It's now leading
Right.
you through that. And there are times for that. There are times for that for men, but you can create that scenario with a woman where you yourself can become immersed in the situation. But it requires setting the stage for that, right? But it's not something that you can just allow to happen whenever, right? Whenever the situation, it just happens, right? Because flying by the seat of your pants in relationships does not work. It can't. Not for men. Like you have to have some sort of idea of where you're going, and more importantly, why. Right? And guys are like, well, I want her to cook for me. Okay, let's see she cooks for you. Now what? Oh, you want sex and head on demand. Okay, you have that. Now what? You want her to look pretty? Okay, she does. Now what? What do you want? What's down the road? Okay. Like I race motorcycles. Yep, showy. And they say, like, never, when you're on the track, never look at the corner in front of you. You're always looking 2 to 3 corners ahead, right? Because you're going so fast that you need to project your perception and your reactions to the corners that are further out in front of you so that you can react properly. That's how your planning and the way your vision should work as a man when you're in a relationship. You cannot be focused on the corner in front of you, because then you're reacting, right? You're not based it on planning or working off of your vision.
I think that's just how a man should be in every area of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing in business, right? If you're worried, right now we're in the middle of developing our Bitcoin education YouTube channel. If all I was doing was focused in on that and just following the lead of what's going on there and not thinking what's next, I wouldn't be effective in getting anything truly done. So I think a man has to do that in all there. Again, the things that I was talking about are philosophies around the universe. It's not just around one topic. This is how a man should be in every situation: still and focused and present.
So you're saying, so a way that, because women are, one woman asked me, well, how do I have to wait to see that when I'm in a relationship with him? And so to answer that question is no, he's going to be that way in every aspect of his life. So you should see that in his life. How does he handle issues at job, work, his business, his colleagues, right? How does he function in operate in his own personal life with everything that he has going on with his friends, family, and things of that nature? Women should be, those are the things you want to look at. You want to look, for those of you who want a masculine man, those are the things that you should be mindful of, right? Just basically how still he is. I like that. how
Well,
he is.
they saw a live example of your safety scale go from 10 to 3 back up to 10 in a matter of seconds.
It did. It really did. So now, like when a woman is on, ladies, when you're on a date and you need to test to see if you feel safe with this man, if he's in his masculine stillness, just pay attention to how he is being. Is he very moving, or is he still and calm? How is he flustered when the waiter messes up the order? Like, is he now getting into matching certain energies around him? Now, I think there is a time and place for assertiveness when he has to be protective, right? Because I think a lot of women are going to be like, well, what if a man's got to throw hands? Like, now he's
That
moving.
is
We're gonna be
that
literal.
is the absolute last resort. That is the furthest thing in the last resort category that you can get to. A man should be able to shut down the entire world with his stillness.
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of guys these women are hanging out with because I mean I live in New York City. I don't see even in a place like this, it's not like people are like throwing down everywhere. Right. And that topic always gets brought up like, oh, well, in a violent situation, I got to be able to, they're talking about gunshots and, when this emergency happens, that come on, we're in 2023. Like this stuff is, we're not like fighting off barbarians anymore. Right. We live in a pretty civil society. And if you're a woman and this guy has this kind of lifestyle, well, you might want to consider that that's a reality that you're going to be getting into, right? And if you want to live with violence in your life on a regular basis, right? But like for the most part, guys aren't getting into fist fights anymore. I mean, come on now.
What about arguing? Y'all do argue, or do
No,
y'all call that arguing? Do
I
y'all
don't argue.
like when there is a heightened sense of, or there's a disagreement there, right? There's a lot of back and forth, right? Then there's passion that comes in.
No,
No,
passion's another word for emotion.
Yes, I was just
It's a
going to
fancy
say that.
word for emotions.
If it's emotional, it's feminine.
Yeah. And people say I was passionate. No, that's a creative or like masculine way to paint over the fact that you're being emotional.
oh,
Yeah.
so the women are right when they say that the men are you're being emotional when they're calling it out. You're being emotional.
When they're saying I'm being passionate, no, you're being emotional. There's no version. There's not an unemotional version of passion, right? Therefore, it is emotional.
So they're calling it out.
Right.
Right. Are they're not being in their masculine energy, because then the man will retort and saying, well, you're just being masculine. Like,
yeah.
Well, again, we're confusing the features of what these things are in this world with what these energies truly are. Masculine is stillness. So if a woman is sitting still with you, just making you feel all kinds of safe, that's when she's being masculine, right? When she's directional, when she's too like structured, when she has to have everything rolled in a particular order of things in order to for her to feel good, and it has to be her way, etc., etc. That is masculine.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, a lot of women develop this over time due to their circumstances. And so I never shame or blame women who have these traits because largely it's not by choice. Usually it's just the way they were raised and certain things that happened in their life that they had to adopt these sort of things in order to survive. And then along the way, it started to feel good. It started to feel good to be assertive and to take control. And it creates a sense of safety because masculinity creates feelings of safety, right? It creates predictability, calmness, structure, and continuity. And so if someone has lived a life where things are crazy and unpredictable and fearful, when someone starts creating that within themselves, it creates that sort of safety. And then it just becomes habitual. So if guys, you come across a woman who's like this, just understand that it's probably come through a lot of conditioning over time, and just don't fight it. If you don't like it, just talk to somebody else. Don't try to change them, right? It's not going to happen, right? Otherwise, if you do try to change it, you're going to say out masculinize her, right? And that's going to be really, really tough and probably not worth your time.
what is out masculinizing her?
Well, being more masculine than she is, right? So it's like on a scale, you know what I'm saying? It's like if say she's at like a 2, right? If you want to put it in something tangible, then you have to be 3 or more. If she's at a 7, then you're gonna have to be at an 8 or more, and that's gonna be probably somewhat toxic, right? It's to her, it's gonna feel that way because he's gonna have to be that forceful to make her feel okay, this is safe for me. So it's got to be just as controlling, if not more, than her, to make her like recede back and go, okay, this man's in control. He's got it. I feel safe. I can feel it like kind of like the powers slowly coming down, and I can feel softer and okay with myself. Right? It's gonna have to be really, really up there. And who knows if that's for you, cool, but it might just be draining.
I'm gonna say, ladies, put a 1 in the chat if you feel safe right now. Oop, and sorry, Clubhouse, my phone died. So it literally, and I was trying to get in and tell them, I'm down to 1%, and it died. So, ladies, Put a 1 in the chat if you feel safe right now just listening to this conversation. I think it's great, right? I feel safe. But I want to throw it to Lawrence if he's there. Lawrence, did you want to add? Did you have any thoughts? Okay, he probably stepped away. He's probably listening but not able to.
Sorry. I was opening a bottle of wine. Give me a minute.
Oh, nice. I could go for a bottle of wine right now, but I knew I was doing this live stream and I didn't want to, I get tipsy
And
with watching the live stream.
I was trying to choose which aerator I was going to use.
Oh, I could go for. I know when I get off the live stream, I'm going to get me a glass. I just didn't want to end up a little tipsy. I didn't know how long I was going to let it go, and then next thing you know, 30 minutes after, y'all see me like, I don't want that. Okay, so back to it. Lawrence, just hop in when you're available. Okay, so got a 1, feeling safe, feeling safe in the conversation. And so, ladies, this is how you would feel when you're with your masculine man. You should feel safe when you're with him. If you don't feel safe when talking to him in the conversation, you're feeling uncomfortable, listen to your feminine intuition and just know what you're getting yourself into. So, do you think that a woman can teach a man how to, or can pull the masculine out of a man who is not being masculine?
LeTisha, go back to the philosophies that we've been talking about since the beginning of this live stream.
Well, yeah, but people
What comes, what comes first?
The consciousness.
So, if the consciousness comes first, how does the baby birth their parent?
Can't do it. Can't be done.
Right, because then she's basically driving from the back seat.
Leading from the bottom is what I say.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that before. That's actually like a BDSM term. They call it topping from the bottom.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's called topping from the bottom. Yeah, in the BDSM world, yeah, it's called topping from the bottom when a submissive is either overtly or covertly guiding the dominant to do what she wants him to do.
Oh no, now they're gonna be like, Miss LeTisha, you've been using a BDS term.
Well, they've been topping from the bottom, and now we're here. So what do we do with that?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
But yeah, women can't drive from the back seat, right? But a lot of guys will accept that, right? They'll accept it happening. What the question is how long can she accept it?
There are some women who can, I think.
For how long though?
But I think the woman who likes to be in control, right? Likes to lead, likes to make sure that everything around her is organized and taken care of, and she's doing that. She's the one who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I know there are some women who just don't feel comfortable with not having that control, not taking that lead.
That's true. I've seen that in relationships. I have not commonly, but I've seen happy relationships where the woman is more dominant and the man is more submissive. And it's got to be very particular people who have accepted who they are and are very comfortable with who they are, and they enjoy that type of dynamic. But it's very rare. Oftentimes, that woman, if she's also very comfortable with her sexuality, will seek out the services of a dominant, like an actual BDSM dominant, to then take her into his hotel room, his dungeon, or his home, and she can release into someone who knows what he's doing.
Christina, why did you disappear? Come on up. Come back up, Christina. Okay, so if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can click the link up top and you can join the discussion, ask a question. So I have my good friend British Hodo joining. I have my good friend Lawrence Griffin, and I have my good friend Justin. I want to say Coach so bad.
Yeah,
Justin.
Mr. Justin's just fine.
Mr. Justin. Oh, we're going with the Mr. Justin now. That sounds so masculine.
Yeah. So,
Um,
I spent some time in Dallas. I got this from Dallas. I was training with a teacher of mine down there, and I guess it's a Southern thing because he called everyone Mister and their first name, and I was like, that's a very like relaxed way of giving other men respect. So when I'm referring to other men that I'm talking to, I call them Mister and so on. I think it's just a very cool, relaxed way to regard men.
it is definitely Southern etiquette to
Mm.
call someone who is an adult by their by a title. So it's either going to be Mr., Mrs., or Miss or Ms. Ms
Correct.
would be if you don't know her status or if she's a divorced woman. So
Yeah,
Ms.
something that's terribly miss. I think it's something that should be brought back. It's a great way to show just a very relaxed form of respect for the people around you.
Okay, so how does the masculine manage the emotions of the feminine? And what are some healthy ways? What are some ways that women will be able to recognize that he's not controlling, he's just managing the emotions? I know British said that it's stillness, right? The masculine is just still, but I wanted to get everybody else's thoughts on that.
Well, the stillness, but it's the shape, right? And I talk about being a container, right? You're like a vessel, and it's sort of like sorry, I forget the name of the it's the big metal container that molten lava is poured into in refineries, and it's like that. And it can hold like molten metal, right? And it's undisturbed, it doesn't break, it doesn't melt or anything like that. And that's sort of the container that you got to be. And she can come in with her lava and be messing around and being crazy and or really upset. And and this has happened to my girl, and I just say, hey, baby girl, come here, come here, come sit on my lap, right? And she comes sits on my lap, and whether it's about me or about work or about something in her family or whatever, and I just let her release it. And then once it's released, without getting into it, I don't ask any questions, I don't give remarks, I don't give advice, I give nothing, right? I just invite to come into the vessel and let it out. And that's one of the best things you could possibly do. And then afterwards, I say, would you like some advice? If she doesn't, she doesn't. I don't have to give advice, but sometimes it's helpful.
So why do men struggle with that? Why do men today? Because I hear a lot of conversations where men feel that having to engage in that and do that, they feel like they're pacifying her. They just don't feel comfortable doing that.
I think it's an aversion to the energy of conflict. I think a lot of men don't do well. They don't deal well with conflict, with just as a general energy, whether it's in conversation, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, on all aspects. I think just a lot of guys have been conditioned to veer away from conflict. And you look at traditions of long ago, men ran towards the bullets, right? They ran towards the fires. They got into it, and I think that's been lost. So they just feel a little bit of it. They either shy away or they push back because they're afraid. They don't know how to handle that and just be okay with this energy coming at you and understanding it's not going to affect you. Like nothing, I'm saying absolutely nothing my woman says to me or does affects me. Nothing. She cannot move me. So it doesn't matter. She could have the worst day in the world. I could have said, which is fairly rare, something completely offensive, and she's totally pissed off. Won't affect me, right? It can't. It just can't. But they're just lacking that feeling of this energy's coming at me, and they're like, I can't deal. I can't deal with the anxiety or the pressure or whatever it is that they feel that's coming out to them. And then, like I said, either they veer away or they start pushing back against it.
Okay, so what's the difference at what point does a woman's emotions and her emotions start to move into the realm of disrespect, British?
That's a man's choice. He has to know who he is. And if he doesn't know who he is, then he will accept anything. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So that is the process of a man developing who he is and understanding himself so that he can decide what type of woman he wants to allow into his life. It's very, very simple. He comes first. He must know who he is first so he can pick the right woman for him.
Same question to you, Mr. Justin.
Would you mind repeating that?
At what point does the feminine emotions now delve into the realm of disrespect?
Oh yeah, I've talked about this before, and guys have a completely skewed idea of disrespect. Really, for the most part, when a guy says, "Oh, she disrespected me," or "That guy disrespected me," what they're really saying is that person hurt my feelings. That's really what's happening there. In order to have a respect, there has to be something to be disrespected, right? And for me, and what I believe, it's based on principle, right? So like in a state or something like that, if somebody's doing something and it's against the rules, you clearly can look at the rules and go, okay, you broke the rules, now there's retribution, right? It's the same sort of way, but instead of the retribution saying, okay, this is disrespect. So when, say, my girl like violates something like a principle or a rule in the relationship, I'm not going to get offended. I will just say, this has been disrespected. It's number 13 on the list. And it's clearly stated here, this is what was violated, right? I never take it personally. Never. Disrespect has nothing to do with my feelings. And most guys who feel, right, they always say, I feel disrespected. And then they act off of their feelings. They get upset. They're all argumentative. They start crying. They start moaning. They start attacking, right? Because it's a feeling that they're working off of. And then they mask it with the title of disrespect. Okay. Disrespect is based off of a structure that they're operating from. And most guys don't have a structure they're operating from. They have no codes. They have no principles. They have no rules. They have no values. And if they do, they probably adopted it from somewhere along the line when they were children. It's nothing that they formulated on their own, written their own constitution as a man and said, look, this is what I stand on. And this is the things that can be violated. And then when they're violated, that is what's considered disrespect, right? So like, for instance, like say you go to a church, right? A church has like, if you go into a church, there's certain etiquette, right? I think one of them is like, you're supposed to take your hat off, right? That's based on a principle, right? God's not going to be like, oh, he's hurting my feelings because he's wearing a hat. No, it's based on a certain principle. It has meaning behind it. It has no emotions behind it. It's not like God's going to get upset. No, there's a structure and a meaning and a purpose behind the action. And when you don't follow that action, then that's a form of disrespect. So that's my thoughts on the matter.
You know, Justin's done a great job at writing this down for his woman, so she can refer back to something, right?
Yeah, of course.
I haven't got to that point yet, but I'll give you an example for me. I don't really drink alcohol. I'll maybe drink alcohol once or twice a year, and it'd be 1 cup. And I don't like a woman who gets drunk at all. Zero. And if a woman, I will very, very clearly explain that to a woman. I don't like it when a woman that wants to be in my life gets drunk. I have no problem with you drinking, but you have to make a choice if you want to be in my world, because I don't get drunk and I don't want to be responsible for managing you when you are drunk. So if you cannot have a good time without drinking alcohol, it's just probably not going to work out. And then if she continues to get drunk, I need to reinforce that that is a rule for my life. And what most men I've seen do is they let it go and they make a joke of it. It's never a joke. It's never a joke. And my ex-girlfriend was fantastic at this because, when there was one night that she got drunk, it was actually on my birthday, and I wasn't responsible enough to make sure that like I had set up the guidelines and watched how much she was drinking, et cetera, et cetera. So it was completely my fault. In that environment, the next day, she had organized a beautiful day for me. It was fantastic. In the morning, you know, I woke up and I told her that was one of the best birthdays I've ever had. I want to, I just want to thank you for that. And then the next thing I said to her was, if you ever have more than 2 drinks ever again, this relationship is over. She did not have more than 2 drinks ever again. It's very simple. None of this is complicated. If it was complicated, humanity wouldn't have gotten to where we've gotten to so far. So the fact that people are overcomplicating it and over analyzing it is the issue. This is not complicated. The problem is that men are too afraid of women walking away from them because they don't know who they are. And that's why they overcomplicate it to try and rationalize it. It is simple. I don't drink. I do not want you to drink more than X. If she does it, this relationship is over. It's not that complicated.
Yep.
And
That
Yeah, I
so
think-
so to just explain really quick for those who are listening, what British has is he has a principle which has created a rule. Okay. So it's like codes, principles, rules. They get refined as they go down, they get more granular. Okay. And then this is the rule that guides his behavior. All right. And then therefore, because it's rule, it's written in the Constitution, anyone who comes in has to follow the same rule that he's following with himself. Right. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the word fear, because I was about to ask you, why were you able to say something like that so clearly without pause? And it's because he's unafraid. He's unafraid to pull out the axe, which is one of my own analogies, and chop off that limb at the joint at a moment's notice, because it's like, no, what's more important is the principles, codes, and rules, not you as the woman. Because if he changes those things based on her presence, then all is lost.
She can no longer respect and trust, because if I in that scenario said, "Hey, we had a good time. Maybe we can now drink 2 times a year," should not be able to trust why I've made that decision based off of her actions. Now, if I go away and I do a bunch of study and find out that alcohol is extremely good for you because putting demon spirits inside your body is a good thing, and then I come back to her and say, I've decided that I'm changing this constitution in an environment that's completely non-related to what is going on in the moment, she's then going to accept that because I've made a change to the constitution. I've changed the way that I'm behaving based on new information that I've received. But in the moment of it, you've got to hold fast on your rules. And if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
okay, so I'm gonna throw it to Lawrence because I know I heard Lawrence talked about being a principled man. So I am interested in hearing, because I know Lawrence, you came off mic when they were talking about the principles. So I'm interested in hearing what you have to say on having principles, basically.
Yeah, I think to answer your earlier question, when does a woman begin to sort of cross that boundary of being disrespectful? I think when when her behavior begins to go against your principles. Um, I mean, certainly I've heard me say a few times, principle is a great metaphor. Principles are like the sun rising and the sun setting. You can set your watch by it, right? A man's principles or a woman's principles will determine what they will and won't do, irregardless of the situation. Emotion, on the other hand, is it's like the weather. It changes based on condition. Sometimes it might be a hurricane or a tsunami, raining or sunny. It is ever changing. But principles, and if you notice, gentlemen, irregardless of what the weather is, the sun always rises at the same time every day, and it sets at the same time every day. Doesn't matter what the weather is, right? And that essentially is the way men should be, by definition, um, behave. So, and it's what women expect of us. But I think when a woman begins to go against your principles, which is, what my brother just said, then that becomes problematic, certainly, and you have to sort of reevaluate if she's the right person for you.
Mhm. Yeah, like a man will never really experience a disrespectful woman because either she's following the rules or she's dismissed. You might see a little blip of it, but that's all. It'll never be consistent and never be fully blown. It'll never show up more than once.
Right, because I'm not gonna argue with you.
Nope.
I'm gonna just leave you where you standing.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, I just, not too long ago I had something like that happen, and she constantly you know uh was telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. It was just funny, and I just stopped calling her and ignored it altogether. I'm not quite sure what she expected to happen, but um, and now it's certainly why'd you stop calling me and so on and so on and so forth. I think just some people are just used to being that way. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm gonna just leave you where you stand in all seriousness. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I come out and clearly state why they're being dismissed. Or I think that's just as you're leading. I think through relationships, I think it's important to be very clear and concise about why you're doing things as a man. Even when I'm exacting punishment in my relationship, because I think I use a lot of Pavlovian mechanics in my relationships, and so I think it's important to utilize punishments and rewards and encouragement and things of that nature, using positive reinforcements and sometimes very rarely negative reinforcements. But I think it's really important to explain why certain things are happening. So in the chances in the past where I had to cut a woman off, I would very clearly explain why, so it was understood that this is what the infraction was, and this is the reason why I'm breaking it off.
All right, so I want to welcome Darby to the stage. But Darby, before I do, I want to ask that all of you who are watching to go ahead, if you have not subscribed to the channel, to do it now. Also, make sure you like this video. Let's get the likes up, and to share the video. Let's get some more people into the room. Now, ladies, do you know that there are women who could really benefit from this conversation? Don't leave them out there alone and confused. Pull them in by sharing, and help the channel to grow. So if you really support the channel, help it grow by sharing this video. Ladies, if you would like to come up and join the conversation, ask some questions, this is the time. We have some ladies in the chat. I know you're watching. This is the perfect time to come up and ask these gentlemen some questions. This is actually a truly masculine space. I know I'm the one who is hosting the space, but it is definitely a safe stage. And it definitely, I know I feel safe in the conversation, right? So there's definitely a lot of masculinity up here. So I know you will feel safe too. So go ahead and just click the link at the top that's pinned at the very top of the comments, and just come on up and join the conversation. I know there's some questions that you would like to ask, some clarity you may need. So just feel free to come on up. So Darby, I'm going to pass the mic to you. What would you like to add?
Thank you, and hello, everyone. To the gentleman in the hat that just spoke, I agree. You do have to, when a woman is pushing boundaries or testing your respect level, for lack of a better term, you do need to enact a punishment, not in the 1900 level punishment, but oftentimes in today's world, the punishment is removal of something. So it's removal of attention, perhaps the end of the relationship. So it's the tools in a man's toolbox are quite a bit different than they were in a traditional sense from 50 or 100 years ago. But they, like the conversation and the information he just shared, is women aren't really used to hearing a man explain, talking about Pavlovian mechanisms of how he handles his relationships. And I think that makes sometimes women feel icky because they feel like they're being analyzed or psychoanalyzed. And that's the sort of, and I think British has mentioned it before, is some of these conversations really need to be amongst only men. And I don't personally have a problem if women listen in, but it seems to me women have a hard time in understanding, well, this is how men think and this is how they talk when they're amongst other men and they're trading war stories or techniques they've used in their relationships or in their life. And it's something that they're just not used to hearing.
Yeah, for sure. Like for instance, very recently, I was talking with my girl, and I forget what it was, right? Which I think is important. But she did raise her voice, and one of the rules in my relationship is that she's not to raise her voice to an amplitude greater than mine. And I told her that she's to write 20 times on a piece of paper, right? No typing. I will not raise my voice to my daddy. And she wrote it 20 times. Here's the note. All right. There's three pages of this. And I said, you're like, we had plans to go to dinner. And I said, we're not going out until this is finished. And she's, but I had a like long day or whatever. I said, I'll give you the opportunity. Right. So I gave her the opportunity. I sat quietly, gave her the notepad and a pen. And I said, finish it. And she did. She was very grumpy. Right. And then, but it went away. And because she knew that she had violated, she had disrespected one of the rules. And I was not upset at all, but I had to remind her because you can't just like let it slide. Did it really bother me? No. But if I let it slide, then that's me disrespecting one of the rules. Right. And then I'm setting a precedent.
And that's the hard part is
Mm-hmm.
catching all of the minor, and that like there's a term where sometimes folks use the death by 1,000 paper cuts or that sort of thing where women, and it's not, they're not doing it maliciously. It's a subconscious. They're testing your boundaries because they want to make sure you're going to survive. So it's actually a good thing because for thousands of years that those minor testing mechanisms that women do to test your masculinity, to test your boundaries, to test your strength and how strongly you stick to your convictions, that's what kept you alive. So obviously in a modern context, it's quite a bit different than on the, plains of North America 200 years ago. But and it for particularly young men, it took me a while to learn is you really cannot allow even minor transgressions to go without saying something. Because they'll pile up on top of each other, and then the next one will be a little bit more and a little bit more, and then the problem is you're losing that level of respect from her because she's like, you let me get away with that, you let me get, women know when they're being a little bit out of line, so you do have to be able to, and it's the sooner you implement that sort of technique of like, oh, these are the ground rules, these are the boundaries, and if you step past them, I'm going to say something. If it happens again, there's going to be a bigger consequence. And usually the stronger your framework of how you operate early on in the relationship, the much easier it gets down the road because you're setting the tone off from the beginning versus trying to go catch up 6 months later. Oh crap. I got to, and then typically it's just a mess because now you have a power struggle.
Okay, so I got to step in because I know there's some ladies who heard that exchange and they're like, what the, like what? But I want women to understand that every adult has the choice to lead their relationship and engage in a relationship that they choose. There's no discussions of abuse here.
Well, of course.
Right? None at all. So I don't want anyone to take that. But, I think that, there are women who like that setup. For the women who don't, just learn how to not break rules, right?
Yeah. Let me be fair and say that all of my relationship, every aspect of it is with 100% consent. And so these things were laid out long before. I didn't just toss out a pad out of nowhere. Like she knew that this was one of the things that could be used as punishment, and she agreed to it. Right. I've also bent her over my knee and given her a harsh spanking. Right. This is something that she agreed to. So but all these things were made very clear early on, right? There's no surprises, right? So, and she knows what she's getting into full well.
Right, and she has free consent to leave if she changes her mind at any time.
Absolutely.
So it's a
Absolutely.
totally voluntary.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
it's totally
masculinity is
voluntary.
just a masculine frame, if people want to call it that. I can't stand it, but it's just an invitation. That's all it is.
Right,
It's not
right.
force. It's, this is my world. You are welcome to come in here. These are the rules. Abide by them. You will have so much at your hands. So much. If you go against the rules, there's going to be consequences, and that's it.
Right, no different than an employer relationship
Right.
comparatively.
Exactly.
Okay. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and start to wind down the broadcast, the show. Thank you, British, for joining me. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Justin. Thank you, Darby, for coming up and
Thank you.
participating. I truly appreciate you all in the chat, but I do want to say something to the ladies. So I'm going to put you guys back into the audience. Wait.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to speak to you guys too.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, no, we don't want to do that. Okay, why doesn't it want to? Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is the time I want to take to speak to the ladies, because as the stream was going, I realized that I had been in error, right? And that's, as a Christian woman, the spirit, that's how the spirit moves. It will convict you when necessary. So for all the women out there who have been in a heightened state of emotion and was freely expressing that emotion, whether it was, even if it was bad, even if it was negative, that you are not a masculina. You are not operating your masculine. And I have erroneously applied that label to women. So to those who I've applied that to, I truly, truly, sincerely apologize. And I would make my mission to correct anyone who starts to misapply that term to women who are just truly operating in their feminine. Because feminine energy is moving, it's feeling. And when you're trying to suppress that, that's when the chaos comes in. That's when you no longer feel good. And so you can't do good and you can't be good to your man. I'm not saying that you need to be disrespectful. I'm not saying you need to be crazy. But I think that it is for the man to then deal with that and figure out where he wants to go next with that woman. Instead of just trying to change her, he needs to learn to manage that, right? So, ladies, I also want you to understand that it's not, being feminine is not about doing something. It's not about putting on these acts. It's about who you're truly being. So I have a very soft voice. And I want women to understand this is my natural voice. I did not have to train my voice. I did not have to change my voice. This is my natural voice. Sometimes I wish I had a much deeper voice, right? Because I feel like I sound like Minnie Mouse. And it's been that way all my life. And sometimes when I feel like I'm being screechy, I will then try to train my voice to lower in decibels so I don't sound like a child or screechy. So I don't want women to think that they have to adopt a voice like mine. You can have a powerful voice. You can have a deep voice, right? So don't let men then try to humble you and shame you for you just being how God created you to be. If you have a deep voice, that doesn't make you less feminine, right? If you don't have a soft voice, but you have a powerful, caring voice, that doesn't make you less feminine, right? If you are being combative in a conversation, you're being aggressive, you're just feeling your feelings, you've been hurt and you're standing on that and you're defending yourself. That's not you being masculine. You're just being a free flowing. Your feelings are free flowing, but you are just in a heightened state. I do say that in that moment, if you're feeling, if you need to take a breather to recollect yourself, to regain your center, feel free to do that. I do that all the time. I do that to take a moment out to feel what I'm feeling. I don't necessarily have to let everyone know what I'm feeling. I let my man know, but I'm not going to let everybody know in the moment. So I'm taking that moment to collect myself, deal with my emotions, but I'm feeling them. I definitely am feeling them. So women express femininity in different ways. And I know in a lot of conversations we say, "Oh, it's just one way." No, it's actually true. Women express femininity in several different ways. And one of those ways that you can know that you are in your feminine, your truest form, your truest femininity is that you are free flowing in your emotions, good or bad. You're not suppressing them. You're not being nonchalant, because being nonchalant and trying to remain still and even kill, that would be you being in your masculine. So, ladies, make sure that you are subscribing to the channel, the Matchmaker, and this is with LeTisha Underwood. And this channel is all about how to attract masculine, high value men for the purposes of dating that can lead to marriage. So if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to email me. If you would like to, if you got some gems, you got some bars, right? Whether you're male or female, man or woman, feel free, and you want to send a donation to show your appreciation, send a cash app to $ the Matchmaker, or you can send a PayPal to the Matchmaker at twoheartsexclusive.com. It's scrolling at the bottom. So, ladies, I'm continuing my series for Getting to I Do, the book by Dr. Patricia Allen. It breaks down the secret to doing relationships right. She does talk about the masculine and the feminine, and I wanted to carry on that conversation and have a extended conversation on what that really truly looks like, what the masculine looks like and what the feminine looks like. So if you're trying to figure out if you're with a masculine man or not, do you feel safe when you're with him, when you're in his presence? When he's talking to you, do you feel safe? If you do not feel safe, if he's not providing a safe environment, you're dealing with a man who is operating in feminine energy, or a man who just does not care about making you feel safe. He doesn't want you. So that's the way. So when you're talking to a man on the phone, do you feel safe with him? Is the environment, the tone, does it feel safe? When you're in his presence, do you feel safe, or are you looking like, like what's going on? What, I don't know about this guy. I'm not sure. If you don't feel safe with him, then your feminine intuition is more than likely leading you to say this is not the guy for you. Okay, so make sure you're tapping into your feminine at the highest and at the purest form, and don't let anyone tell you any difference, because we are all women, right? And we are all capable, and it's just innate in us to be operating in our highest form of femininity. And with that being said, until next time, you all have a good evening, and until next Sunday, the next live panel discussion, again I think I'm gonna start it at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, catch the lives during the week at 1 p.m. Okay. With that being said, you all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm sorry.